All right, guys, welcome back to the Atlantic Strong podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Dickens, and tonight I'm talking to Matt and Sarah Watson, who are a married couple who both compete in equipped powerlifting and are competing next Saturday, November 7th, at the WPC meet at Renfrew. Nice to have you on, guys.
Thanks for having us.
How's how you feeling going into meet week?
Everything's done now. It's pretty relaxed. We don't do much leading up to, a week out or so. We did our openers starting a month ago, really. I mean, deadlift opener about a month ago.
Yeah, usually ranges from 4 to 2 weeks out, and then try to heal up as much as possible going into the meet.
Yeah.
So
first of all, how did you guys get into equipped powerlifting?
With me, I was doing most of the powerlifting myself at Good Life, kind of read stuff online. And then I noticed that on Facebook, there was a group over in Amherst that was doing powerlifting. So I actually messaged them, reached out, and then I went to meet them. And then I started powerlifting over there. So I drove twice a week down there, trained with them. And then they were doing more equipped lifting. So kind of caught my eye, and then I got into it, and then the rest is history for me.
Yeah, that Amherst Powerlifting Club was like the hub of equipped powerlifting in the Maritimes for a long time, wasn't it?
Yeah, for quite a few years, and brought the CPF in and did a lot of meets through there, and IPA.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Matt, did you do any raw meets before getting into equipped?
Yeah, I did a handful of them just to kind of pass the time, test my strength, and just kind of have something to measure it. But I got into the equipped lifting, and then it took off from there. So never went back.
And Sarah, what about you?
I did 4 raw meets, and this will be my first multiply meet. And I kind of had a goal. I wanted to at least hit 1,000 pounds raw before I really got into equipped powerlifting. So for no other reason than I just wanted to see how strong I could get. I never hit that in a meet, but I hit that in training. And then we tried a bench shirt. It was my first thing, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And then the rest is history.
Awesome. So, you guys are competing next Saturday. How many weeks out from a meet do you start your official meet prep? Because I know it's different for different people, and it's different for different, training systems.
Yeah.
But where do you guys draw the line and say, I'm training for this meet now?
Usually 12 weeks we start, but really the way we train, we could do 4 weeks, be prepared for a meet. So it's kind of, with something like this, she's trying to qualify for meet down in the States, the WPO meet. So we kind of backed it up quite a bit. We backed it up 12 weeks and then programmed her training for this. So it was a little bit more under the microscope and what we did and how we did it and how she feels during it. So
yeah, so like linear, you would see the volume would decrease and the weights would increase as you get closer to a meet, and then you'd have your sort of peak week, and then you would compete. But with conjugate, you're always dealing with maximal weights every week, maximal weights. So you just need to, if you want to hit openers or do a circa max, and then lead right into the meet. So that's the cool thing with conjugate, is you're pretty well always ramped up to go.
Yeah, you're pretty much primed.
Yeah, a thing that people see in conjugate programs that maybe needs to be, clarified is, they see a max effort day, and you're going to do a max effort up and work up to a max, say a max floor press, and people go, oh, I'm gonna hit a new PR every week for the next 3 weeks on floor press. So, either a single, double, or triple every week. You're like, no, it's not a max. It's not a PR. It's a max for that day, for how you're feeling that day, right?
No, it's not. It's actually like you have like a multitude of different exercises and you're trying to get a max every time. So if you look at Matt's training, that has way more than I do, different types of variations for your max effort attempts. So he might have floor press against a certain percentage of chain for a double. And maybe he hasn't hit that in like 6 months. So when he hits it again tomorrow night, well, he better have a PR, and he most likely will have a PR.
Yeah,
Really?
just trying to break a
Yeah.
record. Yeah.
Okay. I took it to be like, if this week I'm working up to a max triple, a max triple straight weight bench press, but it's a max triple, for that day, for how I'm feeling that day, not necessarily a PR.
No, well, you might not hit. I mean, we wouldn't do really a straight weight, like, or a straight bar.
Just as an example.
But let's just say that's what you're doing. You wouldn't really hit that for like a couple months again.
Yeah.
Right. So we might do straight bar versus micro minis or something, but we might not hit that exercise again for the next
6 months.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. There's so many different variations that you can go through. So that's the good thing about that. You're never bored with it. So you can change anything up and use it as a tool in your chest. Right. So,
yeah.
And there's each bar is good for each different things. And, bands and chains and all that stuff added to it they're good tools too.
So as you work your way into a meet, do the amount of variations that you would work through get smaller and more specific to competition lifts?
No. Yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, we would never squat with a straight bar right up until maybe like openers. So the specificity on the squat, we really don't do. Our bench training is really specific because we do a meta-militia style bench training, which is a lot of work in the shirt. So that's one where we would be hitting bench with a shirt a lot more often. Yeah. But deadlifts, I mean, no. So I guess bench, yes. But if you were doing specifically conjugate, like West Side conjugate style, you wouldn't be in the shirt as much as you are as you would be with meta-militia training.
Yeah, you'd be every 4 weeks in the shirt.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Now with the squat deadlift suits, how many weeks out? Like, would you train with a squat and deadlift suit often in the off season, or does that really only come into play leading up to competition?
For me, I usually use my briefs most of the time, and then usually when coming into meet, jump in the suit, some wraps and that. Yeah. So
the thing is, like, once you put your suit on, you are handling like crazy weight, and your CNS can only handling crazy weight so often. Yeah. So most of the year you'll train in briefs, and you'll just jump into your suit like every once in a while, leading up to a meet, maybe a couple more times, but it's typically briefs.
Yeah. Yeah.
We try to train, like, people think equipped lifting, you're training your gear all the time, but you just look at our IG page and we train raw a lot. Like, we almost, even for deadlifts, like, there's times where I'm like, I could put my briefs on, and then Matt is in my head going, do it raw, get strong raw, because then whatever you do when you put your suit on, that'll carry over even more.
Well, like that kind of training just isn't feasible logistically for most people to do all the time. Like, I've trained with even just knee wraps a couple of times, and you know what, on any given regular week when I'm getting up at 4 a.m. and going to the gym, I don't have time really to even do wraps, let alone getting into briefs, getting into a suit, getting wrapped. So I can see why, for that reason, why you only cycle in the gear every so often.
Yeah. Yeah, it does take a lot more time out of the training session. I know when I work up in my suit, or if I'm throwing on a bench shirt or such things like that, it's going to take a lot more time because the weights are going to even get a lot more heavier. So it's kind of more reps. A lot more time resting
fiddling around with it.
Yeah.
Trying to get your shirt on right.
Yeah. So,
that's another thing that people you know, people from the outside looking in don't really think about, like, you know, I'm getting to a point where my, you know, my working sets on deadlifts are, you know, up over 5 plates. So now my warm up
Hmm.
has to
Yeah.
go all
Yeah.
there, and I
Yeah.
look at the clock and 20 minutes are gone and I'm not into my working sets yet.
Yeah.
Like,
Why are you looking to get into equipment?
I I would like to I'd like to try a bench shirt. I'd like to get better at self-wrapping my knees and do that more often.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'd love to get a pair of squat briefs and try that.
You're
Yeah.
going to try one of those band shirts.
One of those bench daddy shirts.
Well, no, even better, like a Kruger or,
Okay.
I mean, that's a good place to start, but that you'll love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, in St. John, like there's nobody else that does it.
No.
No, there's no equipped powerlifters here. There's a couple guys that I train with that would train in wraps, but other than that, there might only be 2 or 3 pieces of equipped powerlifting gear floating around.
Hmm. That's a really important aspect.
Yeah,
Is yeah, you got to have a lot of people around you.
Yeah.
that
'Cause-
seems to be the main barrier of entry
Mhm.
into equipped powerlifting, and why a lot of people uh, aren't getting into it as much is that you
Mhm.
need the people around
Mhm.
to help you start and
Mhm.
to help you train, because it's something you can't do without training partners.
no.
Yeah.
And me, I can't squat without help.
Mm.
So people adjust my suit, wrap my knees, just help
Mm.
me out for spots and everything. So it's kind of we usually go to Renfrew if we have to, like with me, if I'm doing big squats and I need a team, I go to Renfrew, or if I'm benching big or such
Yeah.
things like that.
I can
So
only spot so much.
yeah, so in our basement, in our Watson Power Pit, we had
It's a
Sarah.
little scary.
She what was it, 675 if you were handing off in one
Mhm.
of the bands I was using, and yeah, it was good, but it's kind of not the best environment to do that. If you have a couple people side spotting and that, it's a
Mm.
lot safer. But we usually put up the safeties up to make sure we're safe, but you can only lift off so much to the person.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's good to have a team that's educated on it too, so they can know what they're looking for, help you out with the equipment.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at social media, Renfrew seems to be the place to be
Hmm.
for
Oh, yeah.
for equipped powerlifting right now, with you guys and Chapman's, and I don't know his real name. I've only met him a couple times, but the not Mark, but the other co-owner, B Money on
Oh,
Instagram.
Brandon. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's getting into the shirt. He's doing very
Just did,
well.
550 in a shirt.
Mhm.
Looked great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's catching on real quick.
No,
Yeah.
hoping to grow the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you know, strength sports as a whole in the Maritimes seem to be taking off
Mhm.
really well. Even look at the novice numbers for strongman this year. Look at Nova Scotia Powerlifting Association, the CPU. Sold out registration spots on the first day. Renfrew had to add registration spots.
Hmm.
Um, it's awesome,
It
and
is awesome.
and I hope to see more people enjoying every facet of it, and equipped powerlifting is one of those facets. Like I've done all my meets in the CPU, and one time, one guy was lifting equipped. So in the 5 meets
There's a
I
couple women in Nova Scotia that are talking about it,
yeah,
that they want to try the single ply.
I would love to try at least single ply powerlifting for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I really need to get more comfortable with the knee wraps and self wrapping, because I train alone most of the time.
Mhm.
And I'd love to try a bench shirt. And RJ Forbes, the vice president of the New Brunswick Powerlifting Association, he's getting into the single ply lifting a little bit.
Mhm.
So
That's a
hopefully,
lot easier to deal with when you're training
Yeah.
alone.
yeah,
And a lot of people think too, they'll throw on a bench shirt, like a multiply bench shirt, be like, oh, I'll bench big numbers with it. But in reality, the first time them using it, they're probably benching less than what they would do brawl, because you have to completely relearn the lift.
So when you, this is something that a question that I wanted to ask.
Hmm.
When you're in a bench shirt, a multiply bench shirt, and you unrack the bar,
Yep.
do you physically have to row the weight to your chest?
No.
In a sense, I mean, you're loading your lats.
Yeah, you're controlling it down.
Hmm.
So
It
But-
starts catching.
But the weight, if you let it, the weight will go down on its
Yep.
own.
The bench shirt, it only going to catch, about like a hand width or 2 hand width atop of your chest. I mean, really.
yeah, you load the shirt.
Yeah. I mean, once it's a couple, like 2 hand widths above your chest,
Yeah.
then it's all your arms.
Cool. So getting back to your meat prep specifically, so you're 12 weeks out from a meet. Can you say, let's walk me through, weeks 12 to 9?
Well,
What do you guys have going on 3 months before meet?
I mean, so we're conjugate, so it's always, a dynamic upper, dynamic lower, max effort upper, max effort lower. And it's not really specific. Well, we look at our training partners too, like Lucas and Ashley and Catherine. Like, what are you guys doing on Saturday? Saturday's our squat day. What are you guys doing on Saturday? Well, we're doing this. Matt and I'll think, well, is that going to work with us too? Well, we'll make it work. So
Yeah.
Conjugate's so flexible, man. You can walk into a max effort upper day. Matt and I'll walk downstairs and go, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, what haven't I maxed out, in a while? And we'll pick it.
And another thing is too, it's you look at what you need work on. So you're addressing that. That's what you're trying to address, and most of your stuff that you choose, right? So it's like, is this going to make me better? Let's figure out the training exercises I need to do to get there. Because if you're just doing the same lift over and over, and you're not addressing these strengths, and
like you can only squat 4 times a week for so long before your body just starts to adapt to your weaknesses anyway. You're not changing anything. But if we start, if I know that I'm a slow squatter, then adding bands will help me push through that top portion. If I suck at being stable, then I'm going to add chains because it adds that instability and it forces me to try to stay tight.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So you guys run through 3-week waves on your exercises? Is that what happens?
the dynamic.
Yeah, dynamic
Okay.
stuff. Yeah, like speed bench, speed pulls.
So for your max effort days, every week is going to be different from the last.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
No, it's definitely a lot of people, like, they do other training methods, but this is what really works for us. So we just we hybrided too with like Metal Militia style training. So it's like we looked at each thing and it's like what worked here and what worked over here in the conjugate and kind of mutated them together.
So what is Metal Militia?
Metal Militia, it's a powerlifting federation. It's out of New York, but it's run like a brotherhood or like a club. So we do, I mean, they have crazy meets. The craziest meets I've ever seen have been with the Metal Militia. But it's also, I mean, they're huge benchers, like the biggest benchers in the world are there. Will Barati, who just benched more than Thor deadlifted, is with the Metal Militia. So with Metal Militia, they are more about being in your shirt and touching with your shirt a lot. Whereas you'll see like a lot of the West Side or more traditional conjugate uses a lot of boards. And we can see both sides. There's a benefit of using boards. It's not quite as, as hard on your CNS. But with Matt and I, Matt's been using band shirts a lot. And I'm pretty new to bench shirts. So we thought we need a lot more practice in our shirt. So we've been following the Metal Militia template because we need to more practice at touching to our chest and our shirt. We still cycle it out every 3 weeks. Well, every 4th week, I guess. We'll do like a conjugate style just to give ourselves a break. Because the pressure of being in a bench shirt is, I think Lucas Chapman said it the best. He was like, it feels like you're in an airplane and the cabin pressure is gone and your eyes are going to pop out of your head. Like it's just extremely a lot of pressure. So it's hard on your body. You can't do it for 8 weeks in a row. Some people I'm sure can, but I can't. So we cycle out.
Yeah, it's hard on the body, but you adapt somewhat to it. And then we're trying to hit lighter weight to our chest too. It's like, so it's not as, so you're more concentrated on the actual lift than actually getting fatigued pushing the weight, right? So it's kind of a little different there, but
it's acknowledging that benching in a shirt is a skill that needs to be practiced.
Yeah.
And practicing it at maximal weights all the time probably isn't the best way to get good at that skill.
Yeah, you're not going to get very many sets in that way.
Yeah,
that's what I find. Yeah. But using lighter weight, and if you can touch a lighter weight, you're going to be able to do a lot more volume that way.
Yeah.
So even doing triples in a shirt.
But lighter weight.
Yeah, the key.
Yeah, but it's not really light.
Relative term, right?
Yeah. Still, mine would still be like 100 pounds over what my raw bench would be, or like 80 pounds over what my raw bench should be.
Cool. So you're in the shirt a lot more with Metal Militia.
Mm-hmm.
When in your 12 weeks leading up, is the first time you put on your squat suit and your deadlift suit?
I mean, right at the beginning, to see where we're at.
Yeah.
And then not really again. I didn't put mine on again until my opener.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like once.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you hit the squat and deadlift suit at the start of your meet cycle to gauge where you're at and where you're going to be at in 12 weeks. And then you didn't hit it again until your opener. So when you went into your opener with the suit on, did you have a number in mind, or did you not know what your opener was until after you had done it with the suit?
No, I knew what I wanted to hit and hit it. And Matt, you knew what you wanted to hit and you hit it. Yeah.
So you've got a fairly good idea of how much the suit is going to give you when you put it on.
Matt does.
Yeah. Well, with that, it's technique too, right? So if you can't push your knees out and get down to depth, then in a meet, you might as well not even compete, right? So you're gonna bomb out. So with this, we practice when they're briefs a lot to form, but then you're adding the suit in, wraps.
We have a wicked suit though.
Yeah. So
we have an LUP Leviathan Ultra Pro, and it's those lace-up suits.
Yeah.
So you can lace it up. Some people don't like it because of the lace-up, but man, I can let it out where I need it out, bring it in where I need it in. And so like if I need to get wider and my suit's limiting me, if I just had a canvas suit, well, tough luck. That's all the suit is what it is. But with the Leviathan, I can loosen it around my legs. And yeah. I mean, it's still terrifying getting under those super maximal loads that would crush you had you not had your suit on. So it's really, equipped powerlifting it's that mental freak out that you're trying to contain. So when you do put your suit on after 12 weeks of not being in your suit, I mean, I'm scared. For sure, I'm scared. So that's the one thing that you have to get over if you're going to get into multiply. But I mean, being in briefs, you just hope that day when you go to test your openers, that weight doesn't topple you or,
well,
crush you.
You're building up too. You're building up all your weaknesses to kind of prepare for a PR at the meet. So you're kind of, you're hoping everything that you put into play for the 12 weeks beforehand pans out and you actually comes together.
You're hoping when you put those straps up on your suit that you feel good under that weight.
Yeah, it supports you quite a bit. So
cool.
But for a number, it all depends on how good you are with the equipment too. What kind of equipment you have, the tightness, and all that. Those things come into play on how much you're going to get out of the equipment. So the same with the bench shirt. If you have a looser bench shirt, it's going to be easier at first learning how to touch. But once you're getting into a tighter shirt, and then it's kind of really comes down to technique and what you can maneuver out of it to pull out a good lift. So
Cool.
Mm.
So on any given training session in a conjugate system, how much of your workout is centered around the main movement of the day, and how much is devoted to accessories?
I mean, on your main lift, you're probably going to try to get like 20 to 25 reps, whether that's like 10 doubles or like maybe 8 triples. I mean, it takes a long time. The great thing with equipped powerlifting is it takes us so long to cycle through everybody that you usually have a lot of time to, relax between lifts. But I mean, we train for 2 to 4, sometimes 5 hours a day. Like a Saturday session could be 10 o'clock in the morning till 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. And it also depends on what we're training to. So bench, we may have 1 primary, maybe 2 secondaries, and then we'll go into accessories like bodybuilding style stuff. But squats, it's same type of thing too. So
deadlifts is quick. Deadlifts quick. Speed works quick. It's squat and bench that takes us the longest.
Yeah, for sure.
Deadlift day. What? So let's talk about deadlift day. Do you cycle your accessories like you would cycle your main movement, or do you stick to the same accessories for a few weeks?
No.
To try to build those up and then switch.
It all depends. If you need work on something, I might keep it for 2 to 3 weeks and just really just drive that accessory work. But yeah, normally we change them up weekly. But if you do need to focus more on something, if you notice a weakness, then yeah, I'll keep an exercise 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really. I usually cycle through different things, whatever I feel like doing.
I'm coming at this from I lay out my training very linearly.
Yeah.
To where I almost want to keep everything the same as long as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Until I'm not making progress, and then I switch it up or change the rep scheme or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's trying to wrap my head around changing everything every week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start looking up, conjugate for strongman.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it would definitely be benefit. It's liven things up, and you're gonna be doing different stuff, different main movements.
I don't follow strongman as much as I do powerlifting, but it'd be cool to see how a strongman would implement conjugate with all your implements and the different things that you guys do. That'd be so cool to see.
Well, when I went down to West Side and I was there, they had Olympic lifters there, and what they were doing, they was putting bands on the bar, and they were actually doing snatches. So just adding stuff like that.
Well, right now I'm seeing a trend in, especially for the log press, is adding bands for the log press to work on that lockout. Because I mean, with doing a press with leg drive, the starting half of the motion is I won't say easy, but it's definitely about the forehead where you've lost your speed from the leg drive and now everything else takes over. So a lot of people are putting bands onto the log for log press.
That sounds cool. That's the same thing with like benching in a shirt or even deadlifting.
Yeah, it makes you push through the whole movement, and you have to be fast or the bands are gonna push you back down.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, and with the deadlifts, it seems like a lot of people are using bands with the deadlifts, because there is that kind of external force besides gravity that makes you have to work harder in that top half of the motion. And it seems to transfer over to, when you've got to do a higher rep set in a competition and fatigue starts to set in, and pushing through that, especially locking out each deadlift
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but for say dynamic work, things like that, it's not that popular. I haven't seen a whole lot of it. Obviously, some strongmen will do that max effort style where they'll just pick, okay, today I'm going to do log, because there is so many implements
Mm.
that you can cycle through 4, 5, 6 overhead press implements 5 or 6 weeks in a row. You can go log, dumbbell, axle, stone, block, and then you're back to log.
Sounds very conjugate.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be interested to see. I know that there are some articles on Elite FTS about tweaking a conjugate training plan to strongman, and I'm gonna have to go back and reread them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be beneficial to look into, anything that helps, really. Like that's the main goal in all the strength sports, to get better, right? So
yeah. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to ask you. So next week is meet week. Will you guys train at all during meet week?
A little bit. We'll do like bodybuilding stuff, but try not to push it too hard.
Yeah.
Just see, we love to train. So this is the worst. Like the 2 weeks before a meet is it's terrible. So.
Yeah, I'll train until Wednesday. We'll both train until Wednesday, and then we won't touch anything for a couple days before. Just rest, make sure we're eating enough, stay hydrated, and that's about it. Get some proper sleep.
I have to cut a little bit of weight, so that won't be very enjoyable.
If you don't mind me asking, how much do you have to cut?
Just 5 pounds. But I would like to do more. If I can get like 5 pounds is where, like, the numbers that I want to hit based on my body weight. I'm trying to get a Glossbrenner total or score, because I know what I need in order to to be potentially invited to compete at this meet. So 165 is like where I base my numbers off of. But if I can get a little bit lower than 165, like with the WPO, it's all based on like your weight, like the coefficients of your weight. Yeah. So the lighter you are, the better your score. So if I can get down a little bit more, that'd be great. But I don't want to push it too hard either, because I want to perform well, and that can really mess your electrolytes up. And
so with the WPC meet coming up, is it a 24-hour weigh-in or a 2-hour weigh-in?
24.
Perfect.
We're playing with those 2-hour weigh-ins. I'm not interested.
And Matt, do you have to cut to get into your weight class or no?
Actually, right now I'm floating just under. I'm like 272 right now. I did a meet at Raw, just a Raw bench meet there. What was in the summertime, and I was 10 pounds over, and then I started just correcting my diet a little bit more, and then it was a funny story because I had to lose 5 pounds like the day of, and what I did to do that, I actually just mowed my lawn and I sweated it out.
It's not fair.
And then I was like,
you're that big.
She came home from work, and then they had a night weigh-in or an afternoon weigh-in, and I was like, I'm at weight, let's go. So it's always good to be floating around there, so you don't have to do such a big drop. Yeah.
Yeah, I had years and years ago, I had cut 15 pounds for an MMA fight. In 24 hours.
Yeah.
That was rough. It was like Thursday night I was 279, 280. The top of the class is 265. So Thursday night I'm 280, and Friday morning or Friday afternoon I've got to be 265. And that was tough, but it wasn't too bad, because 15 pounds off of 280 is not that much. But when you get down to that, 165, 160, 5 pounds off of as a percentage of 165 or 170 is quite a bit.
No, it's like 4%. It's like 4% of my overall body weight.
But you take 5 or 10 pounds off of 275. That's like 2%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And there's some people that cut quite a bit of weight too,
Yeah.
and then they use IV to get their fluids back in. And
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah. So some of the girls at the WPO, that the competition that just happened a few days ago, I was seeing on their Instagram, they were getting like hydration IV. I was like, my God, I wonder how much that costs to get like an IV drip to rehydrate yourself, because that's like next level.
Yeah, it's like instantaneous
Yeah.
rehydration.
I'm like hoping Pedialyte does the trick.
Pedialyte's all right. It tastes terrible.
I know. I did
Get the-
bodybuilding before this, and Pedialyte
the
was sort of the
plain.
staple.
The plain is the best. The rest of the flavors suck. So if you had to give one piece of advice to a person wanting to get into equipped powerlifting, what would it be?
Reach out to
Yeah.
people in your area.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't do equipped powerlifting you're by yourself. So
and you can't learn it alone. Like reach out to one of us and come train with us, because you're not going to learn how to use this equipment without someone helping you. You can try, but it's going to get it's frustrating when you have people around you who have been training for 10 years equipped. It's still frustrating to learn it, but to try by yourself, I mean, that's, like you said, it's complete barrier to entry.
Yeah.
So they'd have to reach out, come train with us. That's the only way.
If there was one misconception about equipped powerlifting that people have, what do you think it is, and what do you think the reality is?
Probably that equipped powerlifters aren't strong raw. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
You hear, but that's not true, because we train raw majority of the time. So it's going to help you if you train raw and you're strong raw. It's just going to add that much more to your equipped lifts.
Yeah.
Right on. So I think we'll call it there. That was a nice 45-minute conjugate equipped lifting nerd out. Thank you guys both for coming on and wanting to talk about equipped powerlifting. And good luck to you next week in the meet.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Stay safe.
Yeah.
Make weight. Stay safe. Lift big.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming out.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
I enjoyed
for
this.
All right.